and he helps everybody. He guides everybody.
Oh,
Tries to improve the quality of everybody. Thank you so much for that, sir. Before we start.
Yes. So where is Balaji? Is he going to, or you
He's
are going to
there,
introduce?
no, he's there taking care of the live stream. Live stream has already started
Yeah.
for YouTube.
Oh, for YouTube. Yeah.
Yes.
Because we are hitting 90 already almost. So after 100, he has to take care there.
Yes. Yes, recording.
YouTube.
Yeah, now 50 people are there now in YouTube, and here we have around 90 participants. So in few minutes we will start the session, sir, if you're okay with that.
No, so whenever you say I'm going to start, I have no problem.
Then shall we slowly start, sir? Yeah.
Yes, as you say, please.
Yeah.
Shall I bring in my PowerPoint and test first?
Before that, let me try to, I will introduce you to the participants.
Yeah.
Yes. So, let me.
Thank you.
Very good evening and a hearty welcome to all of you for this Wiser Wednesday session. I'm extremely happy and delighted to introduce today's eminent speaker, Professor J.V. Yakhmi. He's the former Associate Director of BARC and former Chairman of Atomic Education Society, which runs 31 schools and junior colleges across India. Professor Yakhmi's research focus was on topic related to magnetism, superconductivity, and soft matter. He has worked on molecular magnets, sensors, biosensors, organic electronic devices in BARC. He has published 388 papers in international journals and 67 review articles and 8 books. He has the H index of 50 and has delivered 417 lectures in various prestigious national and international conferences. He has a US and European patent on artificial heart. He is a fellow of various prestigious academies, including National Academy of Science. He is the winner of Triennial MRS ICSC Superconductivity and Material Science Award by MRSI, Distinguished Alumni Award, and IAS Gold Medal by the University of Tokyo. We are extremely happy and delighted to have you here, sir, and I request you to please share your thoughts with us.
Okay, now I'm doing sharing screen so that I show. You have to tell me that my PowerPoint is coming all right.
Yeah.
And also, I get it full.
Yes, okay, sir, it's perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'm Yakhmi. Let me first wish all the viewers today, some viewers, some listeners, some both, a very happy Diwali, which is coming in a few days, and also very happy and safe living in these difficult times. So, as you know, I am going to talk on a topic which is a little bit provocative, things not to do for success in a research career. I could have said how not to do research, or I could have said avoiding pitfalls. But I think I chose this topic because I thought that it explains a little more than what I want to say. Most of it is actually meant for PhD students, postdocs, young researchers who are aspiring to, be doing very good research in future and become leaders. All of us have our dreams. They're like rainbows. We go running to them. But I want to tell my young participants that then there is a valley of death if you get distractions. By distractions, I mean fear of missing out, FOMO, I mean social media. So be careful, because my take today is to keep cautioning you what not to do. That is the topic of today. And maybe if somebody is very seriously thinking of asking a question, you can interject. I don't get affected. So a career in research in science, it generally starts at MSc level. Once you are done MSc, you become junior research fellow, SRF, PhD, Then you become a postdoc fellow. Then you try looking for a job in a university, government lab, industry. So you have a regular position as a scientist. The ladder goes up, group leader. Now you can have students if you are a group leader. Then department or division head. Then you become responsible for a number of staff members. Eventually, you can become the director of the lab where you are. Then you can even realign or reorient the programs of research under you or with you. I'm just showing one slide, which is from a recent, last week there was a paper in Nature. It said universities should train for open science. And it means they should take up with the young students some training programs which should point to pitfalls of modern academia. What happens in modern science? What are the problems? And so, I mean, young people should be taught there. This is what the Nature article said that. And then only they'll be able to improve quality, replicability, trustworthiness of their research. All that should be woven into that training. And what are the benefits? So the training in good scientific practices will equip young scientists with critical thinking. And then they'll be able to increase or jack up the credibility of their work. It will also enable researchers, young people, to talk confidently about how open science can benefit society locally and globally. Of course, it should benefit themselves and their group and their institution as well. As we all know, the old days of loners as scientists are gone. Traditional image of a scientist, is a solitary guy withdrawn from the world, working in isolation. Scientific research is now done in a joint collaborative mode, like an orchestra, even theoretical research, experimental, of course. So my first caution to my young students and postdoc and young researchers is, don't ignore your heritage, which is very, very dear to you. You should be proud of it. I'll give you a few instances before I move to the main theme of the talk. See, as you all know, India gave the world its first university, Nalanda University. Presently, the location is in Bihar, but although in India it was started in 427 years, it was the only university in the world for next 660 years. India on one side, the whole of the world, rest of the world on another side, and only India had one university. So people used to come there for their education and all. It was destroyed in 1197. After that, the tag of oldest existing university has gone to University of Bologna in Italy, which was established in 1088. That is now the existing oldest university. But see some other things. Banasthali University in Tonk district of Rajasthan, about 60 to 80 kilometers south of Jaipur, that is the largest residential university for women in the world. I'm trying to give you inspiring instances of what relates to science and education. So there is no other university bigger than that, which is a residential. Let me tell you, there are a lot of programs which are not followed. It's a residential one, so all students live there. They learn horse riding, they learn gliding. I mean, that much is the impact of this. And there have been luminaries from that university which came out. Then the other thing I want to remind you to be proud of is Jantar Mantar of Jaipur. I'm not talking of Jantar Mantar of Delhi, which is used for all, other things these days. So this was built about 200 years ago, roughly, by Maharaja Jai Singh. Imagine somebody invested his time, effort, and money into something which is having importance in astronomy and astrophysics. I hear some sound. Okay. So this is more than just a sundial. I want intentionally to tell you because in the next projection I have something. It has 19 architectural astronomical instruments to offer, still all working after 200 years. You can make measurement of times at four places in the world: sunrise, sunset, sun diameter, pole star, and some other celestial bodies it can track. Now I want to show you the French guys, the French army, what they did. I have a lot of friends in France. That's why I want to show to you this. About 14 years ago, they installed a very huge sundial and claimed now France has a bigger sundial than the Jantar Mantar at Jaipur. It was published. Now look here. This place is called Mont Saint Michel. In English, we say Mount Saint Michael. It's a church or a cathedral on an island. Island gets surrounded by water when it is high tide, but in low tide you can walk through it, so you can go and you go up. We have gone, I and my wife once. So you go up to the cathedral, but then there is like a flag post. There's a spire on it. The shadow of that falls on luminescent numerals set up by French army in the marshy land across. You can see 10, 11, 12, 1. Right now, the sundial is pointing to roughly 2 p.m. So they were very proud of it. I had to tell them what I told you in the previous slide, that our Jantar Mantar is not just a sundial. You have to do many, many more things, at least 18 more things before you overtake us. Next is Harappan culture. You know, Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, we all know our old civilizations. We had Harappa locations in Dholavira in Gujarat, but now recently we have Rakhigadi near Hisar in Haryana, which is the largest of all three locations: Mohenjo-daro, Dholavira, and Rakhigadi. A lot of features, things are being discovered there. I want to point out to you, see, this Harappan or Mohenjo-daro culture was between 5000 BC to 1500 BC. That means roughly 3500 years ago to 7000 years ago. Let us take an average, about 4 to 5000 years ago. That's what we are talking of. So a 6000 years old amulet, which in Hindi and Urdu we call taviz, which people wear. This was found at a village in Mohenjo-daro, close to that. It is the oldest piece of wax clay casting technology ever found. This technology even used by NASA, and this came in Nature Communications 4 years ago. So you have these things to be proud of, and you have reason to be proud of many more things in the past 1 century or so, other than Harappa, of course, Aryabhatta, which is old things. Bose Raman, Ramanujam Bhabha, Hargobind Khurana, S. Chandrasekhar, and S.N. Bose. And we have our large efforts in science in India last so many years. Till now, we are going on. Chandrayaan mission, man on moon, PSLVs, fast breeder reactors, peaceful nuclear experiments, green revolution, that's a marvel and miracle. Korean's milk revolution, Amul, he put it #1 in the world for milk production. Software leadership, cheaper generic medicines. Half of Africa is alive because India makes a lot of generic medicines. Defense equipment, so we have to be proud of. And our most recent Nobel laureate, Venkatraman Ramakrishnan, he was a PhD in physics. He got his education in Baroda, BSc. He joined a molecular biology lab, but he got a chemistry Nobel Prize. So you see the power of interdisciplinarity these days for getting jobs and doing research. And of course, we have Ashok Sen, who won the Yuri Milner Prize, which is 3 times the value of a Nobel Prize in 2012. Very unassuming guy, a theoretician in HRI Institute, Harish Chandra Research Institute, which is managed by DAE in Allahabad. 1 or 2 more things I get tempted to show to you. You should be proud also of Zubin Mehta, the person who is about 85 years now, the conductor of philharmonic orchestras across the world. He goes to Vienna, Berlin, New York, you name the place where they have the Western orchestras playing. I was going around Florence, in one of the by-lanes, we were crossing and we found this place, which is their Philharmonic Orchestra auditorium. You see, they have opera there, ballets, and concerts. When I looked at the concert site, mark my words, please, they put the whole program for the whole year. It was 2011 that time. In 2011, there were 22 programs listed from January to December. 7 alone by Jubin Mehta. Imagine the power of this man in the field of orchestra music. And of course, you have possibly the best teacher ever produced by the world, by India, of course, S. Chandrasekhar. He was a passionate teacher. He got his Nobel Prize in 1983 when he was about 72 years old. For full 60 years till he died, he was a professor at University of Chicago. He taught. You see, when he was just 19, he finished his MSc at Lahore and boarded a ship to England. During that ship sojourn, he had chance to work out his theory on white dwarfs, which fetched him the Nobel Prize, but 53 years later than what he did. But more interesting, when he was based at the university's observatory in Wisconsin, about 100 miles from his base, Chicago, he would always come back every week, 100 miles driving, to take his class. He didn't want to miss his class, a small class. One day he was overjoyed because he learned his whole class has got a Nobel Prize. The total class was only 2 students, Li and Yang, Chinese students, who won the Nobel Prize. And they won 27 years before their guru, S. Chandrasekhar. I sometimes show this small animation, which is a tribute to my own teacher, K.L. Batta, who taught me trigonometry in my school. He was a perfect teacher. He will come, draw on the blackboard with a chalk, a perfect circle. We kept on repeating all our lives. We could never get that perfect circle. Some small blemish will remain always. We should be proud of our teachers, those who teach, whether they teach us or to the rest of the community. I think we have reason to be feel proud of. Similarly, you see, a teacher who inspired, my Sanskrit teacher, I wrote about 2 months ago an article in Medium on it. Another teacher, in 2009, we had a conference in Dalhousie, Atomic Energy Conference, DAE conference. And the chief speaker was Professor Robert Mesger. He was from Alabama and he's known for his discovery of unimolecular rectifiers. So when he was there, the principal of the local school, Dalhousie Public School, a very good school, he requested me whether your chief guest will speak to my students. I said yes. So we all 3 went. He spoke for 25 minutes extempore to the final year students. And the theme was, don't ever give up, keep pushing. And this is the animation for that. I won't keep it for long. You may fail big, but don't give up. Keep on taking your chances. This man, Sir Ken Robinson, he was my hero. Unfortunately, he died some few months ago this year, earlier. He was possibly the best speaker on school education. He had a TED talk, Do Schools Kill Creativity? It has the best record, highest viewership, 19 million viewers. No other TED talk in any field, whether education, science, or commerce, or anything, has had so many views. So you can imagine the power of his talk. I always refer people to see his YouTube videos. Michio Kaku, he's a professor, theoretical physics. He's a futurist. People come to listen to him. He has been at Harvard, UCL. Now he's at City University of New York. He's a very good science communicator. Even the bosses of Microsoft and Facebook and all, you name it, they all listen to him because he tells them what is going to come. And my own student, she worked in our lab 20 years ago, got her PhD, Dr. Amandeep Kaur Saab. She was, she finished her PhD in about 20 years ago, went to US, was postdoc for a number of years, then finally became a regular teacher. She's a lecturer at University of Texas at Dallas. University of Texas, like UCAL, has many campuses. So they have an award, big award. It was given to her yesterday for the outstanding teacher of, not yesterday, last year, outstanding teacher award, which is $25,000 prize. It was given to her because she has been adjudged as a very good chemistry teacher for sophomore and first year students. And my last example here is Harish Chandra himself. I was talking to you about Harish Chandra Research Institute at Allahabad. So who was Harish Chandra? In the 1950s or so, he was a physics MSc student final year. Examiner was C.V. Raman. He set up their question paper. He himself was there to, examine them, give them marks. So 3 hours, they were all trying to solve 5 questions. 4 questions were rather simple. 5th question was very, very tough. It was close to the heart. The topic was close to the heart of C.V. Raman, a South Indian musical instrument, Veena. You have to solve some equations for that. The rest of the students, the 19 students, there were total 20 or so, 19 attempted the simple 4 questions, easy ones, and hardly attempted the main difficult question. Whereas this man, Harish Chandra, he attempted only this question, and in about 3 years, he finished doing it and submitted. C.V. Raman gave him 100 out of 100. Who will question him? Because he said, look, if he can solve this, I know he can easily solve the other one. One more example, which is of our own Anushakti Nagar child. She was Prabha Venkatramani. She grew up in Anushakti Nagar, the residential colony of Bhabha Atomic Research Center in Bombay. She is the daughter of Dr. B. Venkatramani, who retired from BARC as head of the analytical chemistry division. So she grew up in Anushakti Nagar. She did her BSc microbiology honors, and then she did her MSc, and she went to Singapore. She did her PhD from NTU, and now she is in the best biology lab in the world, possibly. Cold Spring Harbor Lab, which is a very famous lab. They work only on biology. Right now, there are 8 Nobel laureates working there, and she works on neurodegenerative diseases and cancer. She also does sketching and painting. So there is a place there in that institute called the gazebo, which means a viewpoint. You can go watch nature there. But she tried to sketch that. She did it so well that the lab directors and staff, they liked it so much, they put it in their newsletter last year and gave it the title, How Art and Science Work in Tandem. So look at that, how our students, our researchers can do well. Now let me come straight to thesis writing. A little bit of business now. So far I have been showing you, pictures or narratives to inspire. There was an article about 7 years ago. Let's end this thesis tyranny. A thesis is really a tyrant in a way. The business of doing a PhD, ask those who are doing now. It is tough. And the things you are supposed to do is choose a strong and novel thesis problem. Number 2, you should have scope to do original work in that lab, and you should have lab facilities also accordingly. Your guide should have an academic reputation and status. Obviously, a student cannot control that. You should collect a lot of original data, okay? You must publish 4 to 5 good papers, and possibly as first co-author. Well, and then you have to write and submit a thesis. You'll be going through a viva voce, which can be a big menace sometimes. And then job, campus placement or not, research, PDF, industry, this whole cycle. So this is a long drawn out process of doing a PhD. Now let me say, let me talk for 10 seconds on my own thesis. I joined BRC in 1966. 1968, I was a BSc honor, so I registered for MSc. Then my guide prevailed upon me in 1972 to extend it to PhD. I finally submitted at in 1975, my PhD, to Bombay University. That's where I got my PhD. And don't ask me how many papers or publications I had when I submitted my thesis. I had none. These days, when you look at the students who are writing thesis, there's a, times have changed. I'm talking of something almost 50 years ago, or at least 45 years ago. People are better trained in writing thesis. There are, as if they're, even you can even get a thesis written on contract. It can be a thug thesis. It can be full of plagiarism. Please don't fall for all these things, and let your thesis not have any inadequacies. By inadequacies means, I don't mean simple grammar mistakes and all. These days, we don't look at that too much, although everything should be perfect in a way. And only once in my whole career, I must have seen dozens of theses and viva and examinership and all. Once I thought it is too much. Although we don't reject a PhD thesis, you know, I know only of one case where thesis was rejected in my whole lifetime. I know of one case. But what I did, I called up his thesis advisor. Will you send the boy to me? The boy came traveling. I sat with him for 1 or 2 hours. I told him page by page, look, do you want your thesis to be referred to with all these mistakes, inadequacies, and sometimes uncorrelated writings? He said, no. Then go back. I am not asking you to change all the copies. Show me when I come for Viva one thesis copy which is totally corrected the way I told you. He did that. Then there are Viva fiascos. Best of fellows who do good research, when they have to face a Viva voce, somehow they get tongue-tied. So that also we have to worry about. They must have experience of speaking to the public in a public manner. Then jobs, postdoc fellow, of course, you try and try, you get it, you feel great about it. But soon you find, how long I am going to be a PDF? Yeah, I want a regular job. And then there is another class of people, like somebody went to California or New York or wherever. He became a good scientist, worked there for 10 years. And he also married another Indian girl. So they also did, both of them did very well. Now, after 10 or 15 years, they want to come back to the motherland. More often than not, I have found only one of them gets a good, desirable position in a good university or institute. The other one who didn't get, because they had to be together, they had to make some sacrifice. So these are the part of the problems. Let me say, now talking of research, PhD is one thing, but there is research. Like all creative fields, doing research needs tenacity. You need dedication, determination, diligence, and mind you, you are competing with high-class academics. So you have to match your wits with them. You need support, financial support. You need a fellowship. You can't survive for 4 or 5 years without a fellowship. You need guidance by a guide or a supervisor, hand-holding, and you need support of friends, like in a hostel or other friends, and from family. This is all needed. I'm talking about the plight of PhD students right now still. Why young PhD students need support, you'll ask me, or understanding. There can be many, many problems. A long planned experiment may fail. Will the next experiment work? The load of pressure on the mind is only on this boy, the student. Data defense can fail. It can frustrate you and then put stress on you. Then there is always this sword of Damocles hanging on you. Will I finish my PhD in time before my stipend gets over? Will next paper be rejected? And their publisher perish. There is a pressure, disappointment, stress, so many things. So you need support, moral support. Of course, as I said, you're worried when will you get a job, regular job, and after how many years? So there's a work to life balance. You have to struggle to learn academic resilience, which of course later on very useful in your research career. Hence, you need supportive friends and supportive family members. But of course, some of them, it's not their fault because they may be in a rural area thinking that their daughter who went to, let us say, Chandigarh or Hyderabad to do PhD, they think she got a job. She's just a JRF. So they fix up the marriage because they think she's already doing a job. So these problems are special sometimes. So what do you need from family or friends? Let me say, what do you need from friends first in the lab? You want them to encourage you all the time because you are struggling with a protocol or wrangling with data analysis. They have to help you to overcome some self-doubts. Keep reminding you, give you a pep talk that you are a skilled guy, don't worry, you are better than us, and all that stuff. You know, some positive thoughts must flow from them to you. Family should understand that a PhD doing is a tough job. Even if they think their child, their son or daughter is very smart, even smart guys have to work hard. So, and there are highs and lows in the PhD, during duration of the PhD, you know that. And your self-worth, your ijjat is at stake. So your family should remind you again and again, because you belong to them, they should remind you that every day is a new day. It isn't the end of the world, don't worry so much. And struggles are a part of life, they should tell you. And for God's sake, the family members should not ask, when are you going to finish your PhD? That's a big question mark. And after you finish, what will you do? Now the student says, I will tell you when I know. Right now, I myself don't know all the questions and the answers to these questions. I am grappling with a lot of unknowns during my PhD. So just tell me that you will continue to support me, whatever happens. Now, during research, among other things, you need very good writing skills. Whether you write a thesis, or you write a manuscript for a journal, or you write your CV, or you get a covering letter, all have to be written in a manner which is attractive and also explains what are your contributions. Let me give you one example, particularly the young PhD students and postdocs. I'm giving you an example of how to miss a good journal paper. We published this report, VIII report, in 1970. This was based on the measurements which are doing towards my thesis. Okay. Then we thought we have got very good data, and actually we had very good data. 2 transitions close by, which we measured through electrical resistivity, I measured. And then we were trying to analyze, and we sent this paper to physics letters in 1971. It came back after 2 months or so. Those days, you know, the communication channels were very slow. You send it by mail, sometimes by C-mail, because you don't afford to spend on airmail. The problem was, we were pointed out that you have the draftsman drawings. Those days, you know, all the figures had to be drawn by a draftsman. They were folded badly while the cover was sent to the journal. They can't take those figures. Sorry, we don't take such papers. Okay, you learn through your mistakes. Let me also tell you, I have written the name Osawa at the right-hand lowest corner of this slide. I want to tell you 2 sentences about my friend, Professor Eiji Osawa from Toyohashi, but now he's in Tokyo. He's 85 years old. In the year 1970, he published his result, which would have got him a Nobel Prize in 1996, on cobalt-60 molecule, carbon-60 molecule. Sorry, not cobalt, carbon-60 fullerene molecule. His mistake was that he published his results in a Japanese language journal of science. The Western world didn't read it. Nobody knew that he had already designed. He's a computational chemist. He had predicted the structure as well as the molecule C60. So people did not know. He He only knew when those Crotto and other people, the three Nobel laureates, Crotto and the other two, and their colleagues, they published a paper in Nature in 1985 announcing to the world that they have discovered a new molecule, carbon-60, which is a football-like structure. This fellow felt miserable, but then he couldn't do anything. But these days I'm writing an article on it. That's why I'm telling you so many things. Now I am saying with time you should learn somehow publish. I'm not saying by hook or crook. No, no underhand methods, but you should learn publish every which way. I'll give you an example. Every year there is a conference called the International Conference on Synthetic Metals. Its proceedings are published in Journal of Applied Physics in March or April or so. If you submit a paper to this conference and if that paper is presented, then you are entitled to get your paper manuscript refereed by them, which is a soft referring, and chances are your paper will enter Journal of Applied Physics. I've done it 3 times and I never attended this conference. I asked my friends who were attending in 90s and all, I have done this. And you get a paper in Journal of Applied Physics, which is a good impact fact journal. And then about public speaking. You see, you may be a very good scientist, a very enthusiastic researcher, but if you can't stand up before a crowd or before a group of people, before a committee, and explain your results in a manner in which you would like to be, what is the use? So you should not neglect any opportunities which are given to you for public speaking. Speaking before experts without showing your nerves takes a lot of experience and self-confidence. And that is cultivated only if you get the opportunities again and again. So of course, your professors will get you the opportunities, but it's you who have to speak. And when you're lying low, when you have lean times, thin times in research, don't sit idle. Learn maximum number of skills, even peripheral skills. I'll tell you, when my times were low, I learned glass blowing, furnace winding. You see the furnace there, and you can see me in 1987. The furnace was wound by us, by me. And then you learned spot welding. You learned about soldering of contacts, designing a glass or liquid nitrogen or helium cryostat, use of vacuum equipment, how to make a vacuum line, how to operate a lathe in the office. All these things help you eventually in something or the other in your future research. Although you will say now everything is automated, digitalized, but a real knowledge never fails you. Then can you innovate? For the thesis which I mentioned to you, I got PhD in 1975 from Bombay University. For that, I assembled an apparatus which could measure 1 nano-ohm accuracy for metallic samples, the resistivity of that. Those days, there was no digital multimeters or voltmeters. Kitri was making nanovoltmeter, but it was an analog type, not a digital type. So you have to make a circuit. I won't go into details. This is how we could measure the electrical resistivity of metals. To prove to ourselves that we are doing the right thing, we had standard resistances from National Bureau of Standards, and also the NBS publishes the pure metals. You can take up any metal, the resistivity plot of that is given. Now you try to match your values with that. That's what you have to do before you start doing. These days, of course, you have automated measurement apparatuses, but you should also try to check, are they correct? Second thing, I'm again addressing my student friends, help the faculty to help you by interacting. Even if you are not in the class of another professor, your guide is somebody else. After all, there are 10, 15 professors in the department. If you are well behaved, if the impression goes around you are, hardworking, good, cultured, then everybody wants to talk to you, provided you communicate with them. Even if you are not in their group, they gladly give you advice and mentoring, which you may badly need sometime, but you must respect their time and protocol and culture of the department. Then don't miss opportunities for professional development. What I mean, go to lectures, workshops to pick up hints on productivity. See how people actually apply for jobs, and watch, go to the lecture, how a candidate delivers a talk for a job. Study his covering letter if you can lay hands on to pick up good points, because you may also need sooner or later a covering letter and to your, which is of, you know, your liking. Then find how papers are published. Read and read. This reading opportunity will not come later in life. You'll be busy in many things. And sometimes I want to tell you, even extraneous ideas, which may look, silly to you those days, sometimes pay off later. Be curious to understand. Again, you have a department, there are people there, there are students, there are large and big departments, and you have teachers, professors, staff. There is always some undercurrent of academic politics going on, most places. And you should watch how stories unfold, not to enjoy at somebody's expense, not to enjoy the juicy detail, but to avoid the same pitfalls in your own case when it happens later. This I want to tell you, know what you don't know. The students, a research student must know what he doesn't know. He must own his failures, he or she. You can't go on blaming the department or the institute. Let me say, if I'm born today, I'd like to again join BARC, go through the same cycle if I can. There's no place as good as my institute, Bhabha Atomic Research Center, I believe so. I've gone around the world, which is as good and gives you so many opportunities again and again, like BARC. Let me say, in my own case, after 12 years of service in BARC, I found I am not doing well. I tabulated my lack of performance and went to my section head. Section head was new, recently appointed that time. So I showed him my table of my performance and showed him how bad I am in almost nil in so many things. I made him sit back. He asked me, what would you like to do? Somehow my impression was generally good, that he is a good, hardworking man. So this is how he turned my corner. I convinced him about the new plan which I want to work on. Let me say again about the departments. The students or the researchers, because they are busy people, day and night, they have to collect their data. There will be mediocrity around you. It will often pull you down because your average will be the average of the whole department, including those mediocre people there. Then be beware of subverting colleagues. They may like to do damage to you. You know, we have in Hindi, we say kekada mentality or crab mentality. If I can't go out, I don't let others also do that. Lastly, I would say you should continue to analyze your own performance. Are you working on any dud problem? Day in and day out, you may be taking data. Like you may be sitting on a mouse bar spectrometer, collecting data for months together every day. These days you are recording, but still you have to serve. In a biochemistry lab, you have to struggle. You have to do everything. After 2 months, you will find you are at the same place where you started. Sorry, there's a dud problem. Second suggestion which I got from so many people is don't stick to one field for a lifetime. Who knows, there may be a golden deer waiting somewhere, some pot of gold for you. But then students will ask me, but how do we choose a new field which is more lucrative than what we have already? I would say have top mentors. There are mentors available everywhere, even today, any lab. You work hard to appeal to them, work hard to get at them, to approach them. I'll give 3 names. I never gave a paper or publication to them. Dr. R. Krishnan, he was at BARC Metallurgy Department and he became director of Gas Turbine Research Institute later. And Dr. M.S. Chandrasekhar Iyer, who used to be at Argonne National Lab, then spent many years, about 30 years at BARC, went back to US, unfortunately died some years ago. And then Professor C.N.R. Rao. I would say they have mentored me well whenever there was occasion, sometimes even without asking me. Then there have been foreign mentors, like I'll name one, Professor Eric Fawcett at Toronto. I was at Orsay doing some postdoc. He wrote, I'm talking 1987 when there were only telex messages. There was no email or something. He sends a telex. He knew me because of my chromium work, which was common to them, common to me, him and me. And he was the #1 scientist in the world on chromium spin density wave antiferromagnetism. I wanted to work with him on that field on which I also had some papers. That's how he knew me. But then he wrote to me something else. Will you come to Toronto from Paris for 2 months, exactly 60 days? You must get our high TC superconductivity program kicked off, started. We have experts here, but they somehow are not able to, start it. We'll pay you what you want for 2 months. But on the 59th day, a research paper must go on the work which you people do. He said, we will work on your chromium itch sometimes later, but right now you do this for me. And he said, including him, there are 4 senior professors who had actually worked for their PhD on superconductivity old days, 1960s and 70s. It was a challenge, I grabbed it, but you should ask me, what did I say, how much money I want? In fact, my host at Orsay, again, a very well-known professor on spin glasses and a very good friend, he said, ask an astronomical sum from them because they need you. But I am typically Indian. You should curb your greed. No, I wrote one thing. I get this much money here in Paris. If you give the same, I will come. I didn't even mention what is my demand and all that. They called me because I curbed my greed. It paid me later. They called me second time and third time also. Then Professor Olivier Kahn on molecular magnets. I can't go into details. Possibly all over the world, I gained wherever I went because I was associated with him. Unfortunately, he also died. Both these Fawcett and Kahn are no more now. So patience, s'il vous plaît. I'm speaking to Pondicherry, French little. S'il vous plaît. Your time will come. You have patience. I'm telling young researchers. Keep building academic superiority through your hard efforts. See how top labs work. In India, visit them sometime when you become a group leader to buy correct instruments and not make mistakes, because Indian money is very dear. You don't get to spend 5 lakh, 10 lakh, 50 lakhs on some instrument and not make a correct decision. And then when you go abroad, you should see the intensity of effort which goes into a problem. I give you 3 examples. I went to IBM Yorktown Heights in, I think, 2000 year. I told my host, a young fellow professor, maybe I was that time nearing 55, 60 or so. He was 45 still. I said, you must show me what you do, how to make a sample. And he was working on organic, inorganic hybrids. And then you should show me how you make measurement, the whole cycle. Then I'll come and give a talk. He laughed. He said, come, I'll show you. He did show. This is how you gain confidence. Can you do that in your lab when you watch it? Bell Labs, again, I wanted to go and see how they work so that we may also have that same culture. Again, in Orsay, that lab I mentioned, Olivier Kahn, I went just to see, he publishes on molecular magnets. Is it so simple? Because sometimes the intricacies of experimental, synthesis and all, people don't write. How they grow crystals, I actually went around his lab. He allowed me before I started a program in BRC. So you must invest your effort before you start your work. Churn new literature every day. Even now I see Nature and all. That's how I'm giving you examples. And many journals come to me every day. These are all e-journals. I give you an example. When high TC superconductivity came, the structure 1, 2, 3, yttrium, barium 2, copper 3, oxygen 7. This was published in Nature May 1987 issue, which comes in first week of May or so here by air. I will go every day and watch and read the news journals. I saw that. Next day I had to make presentation in Delhi, and then further next day in BARC. It came handy to me because I could sort of clear up my thoughts on this compound. So it's useful to continue to churn literature every day, whether it is so useful to you or not. Then you should always jump to take up an opportunity. Opportunities don't come every day. Sorry. I'll give you 3 examples. I told you already about the superconductivity work at Toronto, which I accepted. By the way, on 59th day, we did send a paper and it was well cited. And then I was asked to take up head of the technical physics and prototype engineering division, shifting from chemistry division. They said, you think about it for 1 or 2 weeks. I said, no, not even 2 seconds. I'm accepting it right now. I was asked, will you become chairman of Atomic Energy Education Society? Think about it. I said, I already thought right now. So don't leave opportunities going away. Then some general things. A lab is a social place. Be nice and helpful to keep goodwill among the people in the department. Keep 1 or 2 sincere friends. But a lab is also a fiercely competitive place. Keep strategic information and results as secret. Don't divulge everything to people while taking tea or anything else. Now, imagine you have become a budding research leader after postdoc and all. You should learn to share facilities, collaborate with colleagues, not only your department, everywhere. I normally say the actual practical life of any instrument is about 10 years. After that, maybe it will start giving problems, whether you use or not. So why not share? Avoid shortcuts while buying new equipments. You see, the world, particularly your lab mates, will not forgive you if you happen to buy a wrong instrument or instrument which doesn't work. The stigma will be attached to your name that this man wasted money or whatever. So while buying all these instruments, I only know how many places I have gone because some of these instruments were first time in BRC. Second, lastly, in the last line, 2 lines, it is written, don't stray too far away from your expertise. This advice was given to me by one of my seniors, Dr. K.N. Rao. He said, you are a physicist. Why are you working on the electroflotation and things like that? Okay, you're done. Now you go back to what you are doing. That is where strength is. I think it's very good advice. You should not stray into uncharted territories where you don't have a role to play. Imagine you have become a research head, deputy department head. Don't ever compete with your juniors. It's a sign of weakness. Don't expect gratitude from people, younger people, for whom you do something. Out of every 10 juniors who you benefit, only 2 or 3 will acknowledge. But you are not going to going here and there and collecting credit. Keep helping regardless whether somebody gives you. Let me tell you, in the last few years, whenever somebody has sat on a high chair and I know them, I have always, my sentence is, take care of young fellows who may be in problems. Don't ever be ungrateful to those who benefited you. I have written 2 names. I have no time to divulge too much, but I know they benefited me. I got off to a good start because of their kind efforts, and I have been in touch with them. Think of rewarding young achievers in new ways. Those young achievers may not be from your department. You may not even know them ever. Can you do something for science? We started 2 new awards. One was DAE Solid State Physics Symposium Young Achiever Award, 2005. It is still continuing. Then we found our teachers in AES, Atomic Energy Education Society. We have only 2 national awards every year. So I and Dr. Aswal, who was my secretary when I was in that, I was chairman, he was secretary of the Education Society. We decided let us approach the department. We introduced our own awards. We'll give you the same money, same honor, sort of. You may not get it from President of India, but you will get it, the award handed from a luminary on the stage. And we started almost 35 new awards every year, because we felt 2 per year. We have 1,600 teachers, out of which some of them so excellent. So they also should get a chance to get, even the non-teaching staff, why not? Be kind and compassionate to young, unsettled colleagues in your lab. I have been stressing this at all costs. Throw your weight behind them when you have some weight. You finally got some weight around to throw around, no? You make it usefully. Think of your own days. Someone did it for you. Now I have some. May I ask a question to Rukumani? Hello.
Yes, sir, please.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
I continue for another 10-15 minutes?
Yes, sir, for sure. No problem at all.
Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to tell something about how to write a research proposal and how to write a report or publication or thesis. Why I'm telling, because I have been on the committees of DST, BRNS. I was chairman of the Basic Science Committee of BRNS. Then I've been on DBT, UGC funding committees, and so on. We did an exercise at BRC, possibly the only exercise of its kind. I prevailed upon my DST committee colleagues, Professor ESR Gopal, and also the chairman from Raman Research Lab, let me not name him. I told them, look, we go on interviewing these people who come before us for funding. They have written a project, you invited them. How about all those dozens of young researchers who don't even know how to write a research project, but they are good? Should not somebody be helping them? They also belong to our country. They agreed. They didn't want to argue too much with me because I thought I have a point. So first time what we did, we held it in BRC. Dr. Banerjee was director that time. He supported. We wrote to virtually all the universities and institutes that this meeting is open to those who are about to submit their PhD or those who have just finished their PhD 1 or 2 years ago. And they can bring a half a page proposal on what they want to do. Handwritten will do, or they can stand up and speak for 3 or 4 minutes. What is their plan to do? The committee will help them to write a project. We are there to help you, and TA will be given. So DSTs maybe spent a few lakhs on TA because we invited 58 proposals, out of which 45 people came to present. Eventually, you will be surprised, 28 of them were funded, and within 2 months, they got their 17 lakhs or whatever was promised to them. I was glad because we contributed something positively to Indian science. Now, I want to tell you, all the following 3 go through peer review. That's why I would say you must know how to write a research proposal. Research papers, peer review. Thesis, again review. Project proposals, of course. So what happens? Reviews and comments are generally kept secret, I hope. The same is true for thesis and funding proposal, whatever is true for research papers. Now the comments on a research proposal or a paper or maybe project, they can be 3 kinds. You may be lucky, you may get a rubber stamping approval, no change required, accept it as it is, research paper. Or you may get some helpful, positive criticism. You improve your paper and send back. Third one is dangerous. You may get a vicious, nonsensical set of comments, leaving you flustered. It happens sometimes. Identity of reviewers are kept anonymous to protect them and to let them give an honest feedback. Let me say, by and large, a thesis is, as I told you, hardly ever rejected. Maybe 1% chance or less than that. A funding proposal, the chance of rejection in 10% to 90%, depending on which institute you are sending it from and which boss you belong to and all that. And for a research publication, I would say the chances of rejection are about 25%, mostly when resubmits and publishes. Then you need to protect your valuable data from quick replication by competitors. Let me explain. In physics, physical review, PRL, RMP, they are published from the East Coast of USA. In USA, they famously called it East Coast Mafia. Why? Because sometimes very strategic data has been misused by people. You submit a paper, it is delayed, and by the time the data is reproduced somewhere else and they publish it before you. During the high thesis days, there is a famous case of Professor Paul Chu, who is now the Vice Chancellor of a Hong Kong University. He had actually made that compound related to yttrium barium copper oxide, but intentionally he wrote ytterbium on that instead of yttrium. When the comments came, he coolly changed ytterbium to yttrium so that in the meantime, those who can should not be able to copy. So such tactics are used sometimes. So review should be positive, helpful, not backstabbing. Sometimes some juniors also may try to give a wrong review to their boss, their senior, not boss, some very senior researcher, because they happen to get their project rejected by him. Anonymity allows constructive criticism. It protects the reviewer from so many accusations. Once I was attending a lecture in Weizmann Institute in Israel. The speaker was the editor of Science. I asked him a question. Suppose you already know the manuscript has come from a Nobel laureate. Will you reject it? He gave me some answer, but it was a lot of English. Different journals have different policies. Some of them will never write who was the reviewer. Some write once the paper is published and accepted, not otherwise. How to write a research proposal? You all know, most of the people, I don't have to run, I can run through it. Why you want to do this work and introduce the topic and who are the other contributors in our country and abroad, plan of work semester-wise, which equipment you want, and what your institution will contribute by way of money or instruments. Deliverables, list benefits to be accrued to society, to subject, to students, uniqueness of the proposal, funds, how much you want, and what is the track record of the PI. Now, how to write a report or publication or thesis? I am not talking of conference presentations, because mostly the Indian conference papers, they are hardly counted when you apply for a job. It is the journal papers, peer-reviewed journal papers. So writing the manuscript has stages, all of you know. You do your research, then you're writing, and then you're editing, revising, then finally copy editing and send your manuscript. There are some journal rules. Be correct in your language, in grammar, be unequivocal, grammatically correct, and concise in your writings. And avoid repetition. I often say the masters of language are not the language teachers or professors themselves, but journalists, lawyers, and scientists. The first two categories exploit the language for their own means, whereas the scientists are true custodians of exactness of language. So we must be true to that. There's a caution. Researchers often you read any papers these days, even now, again and again I read, the people write in their papers, the data clearly shows. Either the data shows or it doesn't show. What do you mean by clearly shows? Similarly, they put all the data in the graph sheet or the figure. So the same thing they explain in the words also, and wasting the valuable time of the reviewers. They can have a look at it, the plot. And then why did you give that plot if you were to write English, the whole thing in language? Secondly, by writing, the data tells us this, that, and again and again. This wrongly implies that the meaning of data are self-evident. Interpretation is straightforward, and in turn communicates that readers require little creativity in understanding. Don't do that. Then I think we scientists have to learn to be not verbose, not too much of here and there and jargon. We must use simple words. Poor woman standing at a bus stop happened to ask a question, what is the time? And look at this long drawn out reply the scientist gives and never tells her the time. This should not be. Now, I also want to share with my young researchers what is the sequence of the text of a manuscript when you prepare it. One is what it appears. On the right, left-hand side, you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 10. But when I do research and write a manuscript, I go a little differently. First, I look at my results, number one. Number two, I go to references so that you can match what the other people, and am I leaving any important data without discussing. Number three, discussion. Number four, conclusions. Number five, abstract or summary. Conclusions or abstract are not same. Many people confuse between the two. I mean, they write similar things in both. 6 is introduction, 7 is title, 8 is methodology. You can always write about the instruments used and all, even at the end. Then the 9 is suggestions for future work. This is close to the conclusions and the acknowledgements, and that's done. PhD work. Now let me skip this because this is how your PhD work gets done. You have a title of thesis, you do summary of work, singular achievements, introduction, methodology, analysis of data. You go chapter wise and go on doing till you come to the stage of submission. How to write a CV? Now this, when I was discussing with the Rukumani and the group there, they said, when you're telling so much about other things, you should also tell about CV. I give you a glimpse of my own CV, but this is the CV of a 74 years old man. So young fellows don't have to do all that. You have to have a small CV, just a page of it. Well, many people, they write, you give us a small CV. They have no time to read long things. You may have written, I went to attend this conference or this lecture and that. That has no meaning for them. They want a concise summary. Then there is a full-scale CV, like I'm writing here. And there's an in-between thing also. Like when you go to give a talk, they ask you a short CV, which is only 4 or 5 lines. Then when you write to somebody whom you don't know, there's a 2-page CV. And then there's a full thing. Why I do all this in my own big CV? Because they are pull out. Suppose I want to send to somebody list of invited seminars delivered by me. Go to number 7, 66 page to 92 page, that gives them the list. So like that, I will not go into details, but there are sections which are only tuning to me. For example, I am even writing Atomic Energy Education Society. What did I do when I was there for 3 years, which may have not much relevance for today's audience. Now I am coming to plagiarization. I'm taking up a very serious case intentionally so that you know how far it can go and how far it can bring you down if you cook up data and if you do plagiarization. There was a German physicist, he's still there, he's only 50 now. When he was 30, 31, he was in Bell Labs. His name is Schoen. He was a PhD from University of Constance in Germany before he came to Bell Labs. And he published a series of breakthroughs using samples of organic, inorganic semiconductors. And data was found later on to be fraudulent, not true, because nobody could reproduce his data. But he will publish one paper every 10 days in top journals. And he was sitting at the hub of the place where, in Bell Labs. So he published on superconductivity of the materials, on laser action, on electronics, and all those things. Finally, it was found that he's a fraud. Do you know, most of his top journal papers were rejected. Science, 8 papers, Physical Review, 6, APL, Applied Physics Letter, 4, Science, again 1, Advanced Material, 3 papers, Nature, 7 papers, again Applied Physics Letter, 7 papers. I mean, people are dying to publish one science paper. Here he was having 9 papers in science, all retracted. He had 3 awards, all were taken back from him. Imagine the plight. Wherever he applies now, he will never be able to get a job. Now, finally, we come to job interview. There can be some tricky questions in a regular job interview. I'll go run through it. There's not much time left with me now. Sometimes you go appear yourself before a committee, where you apply for a job. They ask you, can you give an example when something didn't go as you planned and how you dealt with that? Let me say, most of the committees, except 1 or 2 or 3 questions, they really don't ask you questions on what you thought and planned to reply on your own capabilities or on your results. Maybe they ask 1 or 2 questions, then straight come to management questions. So don't get flustered. Things don't always work as planned. Don't think they are catching you on your wrong foot. And don't start giving them lectures on, in such and such company, this has happened in Tata's and all that, the fiasco, and this is how it was covered. They're not asking you that. You can even pick up an example from your childhood or higher education, college level, whichever, an honest example when you could repair the thing. Then there always is a question, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? This question is asked to test your ambitions. It's up to you. You should not say, many people to please the committee, they say, sir, it is up to you to decide my future once I join. Don't kowtow them. Don't try to look pleasing and all that. You rather be truthful. You say, if I join this company, your company, I'll work hard after joining, learn fast, contribute to the progress, hope to rise in the hierarchy by at least 1 level every 5 years, which is nothing big to ask for. Then they ask you, what are your weaknesses? Don't take it in a negative sense. They are not trying to probe your low negativities. They are not seeking your lows to reject you, but you must give some reply. So you can give some reply. I have a weakness of, planning again and again before you venture into some important job. It's not a crime to do. Then they say, what did you dislike about your previous job? Come on, don't start giving wrong comments about your previous company. Don't denigrate your previous job, even if you found it was not okay. Say most things were okay in the previous job. Otherwise, you are going to join this company and after 5 years, you will speak against this company also, they will think. So you are looking for bigger challenges than they were available in the previous company. That's why I come here, because I think I'll be able to do justice to my qualification, accepting new challenge. Then say, tell us about yourself. Now this is a googly, I say. Best is to summarize your recent achievement. Don't start thinking of this and that. Remember, the interviewers, the committee already has your CV before them, listing your career profile. Do you have any questions for the interview committee? This is optional. You don't have to reply such questions. You need not reply, or you can say, sir, when you think I'll be expected to join if you select me, some such thing. Last question, what kind of a pay are you looking for? Look, the salary is already given in the job advertisement mostly. So there may be a chance to get a higher pay and all. Don't show your greed. I already referred to you to my incidents in Orsay when I went to Toronto. I was not greedy, so I benefited again and again. Don't kill the hen which gives golden eggs. Don't kill that in a single day. Now this is a general thing. Let me go back whether I missed. Okay, no. Oh, sorry. What are the, now I'm nearly at the end of my talk. What are the expectations from 21st century science or the scientists? The world always looks at scientists, whether it is COVID or any happening, they are always waiting and waiting and waiting when the vaccine will come. So similarly, in general speaking, The world wants food security, safe and abundant food supply. Luckily, our country has it. They want energy security, sustainable, benign, green energy resources. I think India is doing well in this. Job security. I'm talking of science and technology and engineering students from education. Yes, can you have a job? This is here we are suffering a little. We can't promise job to everybody who comes out as a graduate. They are not there. And forget about giving jobs to all those people who are not even gone to school. Effective management of disease and aging, health security, human security, environment security. This comes under this, disease and aging. And then you have coming sensors, delivery systems, and design based on personalized pharmaceuticals. You know, you learn about that artificial intelligence and whatnot. Then self-reproduction technologies with minimum energy consumption. This is something like robotic farmers. They or workshops. You have robots on demand. You say they will think about and also produce materials. This is wealth security. It's a matter of future. Then wisdom security. This is already there. Can you go beyond in computing devices beyond Moore's law? Internet of Things, IoT, artificial intelligence, human computer interface. All these are knocking at your door. They have already come. So machine learning, you have to learn to deal with them so that you save your jobs and you save your wisdom. But where are the jobs? I borrowed this picture from the chancellor of a university. This university had given an ad to the young graduates of any field, mostly engineering. If you come, fill a form, then we'll try to get you a placement through various companies and all. Look at the crowds, milling crowds. Indian engineering colleges intake has tripled in the last 15 years. Mostly to cater to offshore IT jobs, but now they are also shrinking. Of course, Trump was terribly against new people joining. Then the 80% engineering graduates in India, it was stated many times, are not employable. You can't directly absorb them in a company and they start working for you. Enrollment in higher education is just about 23%, maybe now around 30%. 70% have never gone for higher education. And engineering colleges are closing 15 to 20% of them, private engineering colleges, because no more money in them, they want to close. So why is the job shortage? We have to apply our mind. Government is doing all what it can, but I think we, the scientists and managers and old people, we also have to apply our mind. Is there a skills gap? Can we fill that? I believe one big reason for jobs disappearing more and more in future is to be in a single subject cocoon. I'll explain. This is a trap. I would say my last 3 slides. Education, subject for, let us talk of science, technology, engineering, mathematics. You have biology, chemistry, physics, all branches of engineering, psychology, information science, graphic design, so many things. We have degree courses. See, old days, till about, say, 5 years ago, even recently, you had mass job providers like railways, airlines, IT companies. You just finish your degree and straight go and join. There is a job waiting for you if you are good enough. But those jobs are slowly disappearing, because I told you, we call them exponential technologies, Internet of Things and artificial intelligence. They'll take over all those jobs. You will have nothing left for you, maybe something left for you. Then what robots and the exponential technology cannot take away from you is niche jobs, which are based on multidisciplinary skills, uniqueness in science, technology, and engineering. Can you be unique? Can you be so different there's nobody else around like you around? There are a lot of options, so many combinations. Today only on telephone, I was talking to BITS Goa, my colleague's daughter, who is there from Bangalore. She came now will go back after COVID to her college. She says, I have English as communication language. She's doing degree. One of the subjects is English communication. Others are, of course, economics and some other topic of humanities. She said, environmental topics are coming up. What is your advice? I said, look, all the jobs can be roughly put into 9 or 10 sectors. For example, environment is one sector, medicine is another sector. If you go for only for environment, there is a lot of competition. You have only one degree, environmental. You have only one MD, you go for the job, there are so many MDs, so you don't get it. If you are a master of two trades, environment and medicine, then maybe you may have a job which is called microbiochemist, nano-environmentalist, environmental epidemiologist. These may be the new jobs which are coming up, which are hard to satisfy the requirement. So you may get it. For that, you will have to do biology and computer science, or biology and computer engineering, and so on. One slide on a little more detail on this. I told all the graduate jobs you can club into these 9 categories. Yes, technology, space, medicine, arts. I don't mean humanities, arts, environment, humanitarian category, food, animals, sports. Niche jobs will emerge at interface of sectors. 2 sectors, sometimes even 3 sectors. Okay. Niche jobs will emerge. So for example, animals plus arts, animals plus food, medicine plus sports. If you become a master of this, I think you'll have very little competition. You will get a job. Lastly, let me show you somebody who had lost some preeminence in the days of President Trump, but he's got it back again. He's an Indian, just 43-year-old. I'm very, very proud of that. You people all should also be. He's V.K. Murthy. He is Dr. V.K. Murthy. He was not born in India, but he's born to Karnataka parents who went to UK. He was born there, then they shifted to Miami in USA. He did bachelor's in biochemical sciences. If you want, you can call him a scientist. But he did MD in Yale School of Medicine, MBA, healthcare management, Yale University internal medicine specialty. He is a very good doctor. So he was appointed by President Barack Obama, 19th Surgeon General of US at the age of 37. A great achievement. If he can do so many things, why my young listeners cannot do? Be inspired. So he was, by virtue of becoming Surgeon General of US, he automatically becomes Vice Admiral in US Navy, because he will have 6,500 US public health officers, a core of them, commission corps again under him, working with him. Wherever there is US Navy, there are doctors or health officers. They all report to him. So he stayed there in this job for 2.5 years or so. In the meantime, he doesn't give up. He did many things. For example, he started an institution called Doctors for America. He's only 43 now. He tells the US people, most prevalent health issue in USA is not cancer. It is heart disease or obesity. Neither cancer nor heart disease nor obesity. It is isolation, loneliness, which US people feel, particularly the old people. So he has written a book on it, which has appeared a few months ago. It's called Together. Readable. I have no time to tell you what it is. One more example I must tell you, because we are talking multidisciplinarities. There is one artist, sculpturist. He does sculptures, he does art, he does them on a huge scale. His name is Sir Anish Kapoor, born in Bombay, about 8 years younger than me, so 64 or 65, 66. He uses the knowledge of science to make new structures. For example, UK, when they had Olympics in London in 2012, he made a very different kind of a structure, which is the tallest structure in London. It's still there near the stadium. But let me tell you of just one thing. There are a lot of examples of his structures. He made in a building in Paris, which is the ceiling is about 36 meters high. He want to show a tornado, active tornado inside the building. How he will show. This is an exhibit which he makes. You know, a vortex forms when a strong suction combines with a slow, smooth rotation of the air in the space. Air begins to spin with increasing speed, forming a hollow core, which is what a vortex is. So he made an artificial vortex, a tornado virtually tamed by using the principles of fluid dynamics and wind tunnel testing. So he had a, I can't show you the pictures for reasons of, compulsion. Smoke rises to 36 meters high, right up to the ceiling, but it has to be seen. So he has a fog machine, which makes the air movement visible. He has a powerful extraction duct at the ceiling. People go to see as if a tornado is rising from the floor of the building, 36 meters high, to the ceiling of the building. So this is multidisciplinarity. I told you, he's an artist. He can think of new things. He has used, he holds the patent rights for using the blackest of black paints. What is that paint called? Vanta. Vanta is vertically aligned nanotube arrays, which can absorb 99.96% light. So what you will see, the surface is a perfectly black thing. So he uses it for his painting and all. Thank you. I have finished. Let me dedicate this talk to my great friend, the late Dr. O.M. Sridharan, who worked at BRC for 10 years, then at IGCAR. He was a high temperature thermodynamicist of repute, a great friend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for the wonderful and thought-provoking lecture. It was really, really very useful for us, and it enlightened us on various aspects of research. I am very happy to share here that over 500 people attended this talk, both through the Zoom as well as through the YouTube. Now the session is open for discussion. I request all the participants to interact with our expert and get your doubts clarified. You may also give your questions in the chat box so that I can read out for you.
Professor Sawant is here, you can ask him.
I can only see Professor Arun Sawant sitting there.
Ask him to ask him.
I think this mic is muted. Yeah. Yes.
Very excellent lecture. And I think this is at par excellence in all sense, tributes to the great scientists, the teachers, and the global canvas of what are the steps and landmarks that one has to, when you come across and fitting into your mind, and you have taken a clue or a vision from them, and you have paid tributes to them. And best things like in India, starting with Nalanda, and then your the most esteemed organization, the BRC, which has done wonder in this country, BRC and IIT always say. I think this is for all youngsters, young students and teachers. This is a platform that one has to walk. So that roadmap you have given, and I'm sure Rukmini must be very happy, and her colleagues in the department and the university, which is also our high expectations from the Pondicherry University. I think it's an excellent. Thank you very much.
Those who joined late, let me say, Professor Arun Sawant was Vice Chancellor of Rajasthan University, Jaipur, and also Pro-Vice Chancellor of Mumbai University for several years. Yes.
Our nicer experiment, which Dr. Mittal came and launched, inaugurated when a Vice Chancellor there, it has been a meteoric rise now. So many people they could rope in. Yes. And our ex-BRC colleagues have been well given credit to those who went there and established the physics department, which is your domain. And when I was a VC there, I could see the most dedicated work, and I'm happy to share that university still contributes so well and good number of scientists in the world, 2% best scientist of the University of Rajasthan. So I'm so happy about it because the foundation laid down, no? That was very important.
Yes, very important. Yes.
IP Jain got into energy listing.
I know, I communicate with him almost every day.
Okay, okay, okay.
He's a very good communicator. Yes,
Very
like
good.
you, like you. Yes. So anybody else? Otherwise, I hand over to Rukumani.
There are a lot of thanks messages in the chat, but I would also
I can read messages. Nitendra from France. You know, Nitendra Singh. I know he is from writing from Cadarache in France.
You asked a question about.
So there's one thing. The question is from Narendra Singh.
Yeah. Narendra, no, Nitendra Singh.
Okay, Nitendra Singh.
Read again. Yeah, yeah.
He would like to hear your opinions on scientific temperament in the art students, as they both are same side of the two coins.
Yeah. Of course, his ideas are always. Let me say, Nitendra is a very mature person for his age. I have interacted with him. He is right now working at where the fusion reactor ITER is being assembled, and so he has a lot of maturity. So I value whatever he says, and I think we all have to work towards Nitendra Singh to everyone. Thank you so much, sir. Okay, fine. Thank you.
I didn't see any questions in the chat box now, but I would like to ask you something, sir. Do you think, like, whenever there is a breakthrough discovery, if you do something novel, when you and also say that in your paper that it's very novel, it is discovered for the first time and all that, do you think the probability of getting accepted that idea to be accepted is lesser? Because I always feel like whenever we do something like add on. When we say that it is working through this pathway, this is extra thing, it's an analog of something, it easily gets accepted. When I say that it is very novel, it is done for the first time and it is patented research and all that, the acceptance is like if the paper gets delayed for so long. I really wanted to know, is there anything like specific reason or it is just...
I'll tell you what I did in one or two cases. Okay. We had totally different kind of results, which I could not explain. But they were results again and again reproduced, negative remnants of molecular magnets. I have not seen any paper on similar ideas. So are we going crazy? But it is reproducible. So what I did, I wrote to about 40 experts all across the world. Luckily, I keep in touch with big people who are very good in their science. They may be very senior people. And they belong to molecular magnets, also to superconductivity, because hysteresis plots are virtually similar. I got very valuable comments from at least 3 to 4 experts, one from Royal Society, Professor Peter Day, and then also from France and from US. When other people try to justify your results, who are big in themselves, you get confidence. Now armed with that confidence, I can send my manuscript and I can also defend it. And if any comment comes, I can handle it.
Okay, understood, sir. There is one question from Rajendra Kumar. And Rajendra Kumar, yes. What should I do if I am very much frustrated with my supervisor?
If you are very much
frustrated with my supervisor,
make friends with them. send some emissaries to them. send some ambassadors to them. Then try to make, these days it's not so difficult. I mean, why do you take it to your heart that you don't know how to interact with him? No, you should. Different people are different attitudes, but you should talk out. Hold your foot. Don't give up. Just as I said, that professor said, never give up. That sentence is attributed to Churchill, by the way, never give up.
Sir, actually, there is one more question through YouTube. if one goes out of the single subject cocoon, doesn't he has to face a lot of competition?
Oh no, I am saying, first of all, let me say, when I retired from BRC in 2010, I had the itch always that physicists are afraid of biology, and they used to be afraid of chemistry, but maybe they can handle chemistry. Biology, too much. So I myself gave 4 talks, breaking the barriers, that don't be afraid of biology. I had to learn myself to give. And I called the group director of biology and all to sit in my lectures to criticize me if I'm wrong. So there will be full houses. I think people have to make effort. Don't be cozy sitting in your room that you don't want to learn something else. You don't even need degree qualifications to enter another subject. You can learn as it is. Then when you interact with experts, suppose they now in job interview, they are going to ask you questions. If you know peripheral topics, you already won half the battle. But if you have a degree to tell that I am not only IT graduate, I'm also a graduate in geology, so mining and all. So I can help you in that, by putting it everything in digitalization of that. Okay.
Yes, sir. There's one question from Jyoti. She has asked, like, when a person come back from like abroad, does he have no scope to work?
Does he have no scope?
To work, or what is the scope for him to
See,
work?
let me say, there are different categories of people who come from abroad back. One category is they have come back, but they have no job because they were doing some postdoc or some job in Silicon Valley or wherever, and they return without yet getting a job. So they will settle for anything because they need a job. If you come back to a job, then why do you say you have nothing to do? You left somewhere. And let me say, in my case, I never went away for more than a few weeks. My average was 20 days, sometimes for a week, sometimes 2 months. That's all, 1 month. Then you don't, at least you will not be out of touch with your own colleagues and their work when you come back. I think that is needed. Unless, I don't think I can handle that if I go for 2 years and come back to my same lab and expect I can start where I left. No, that is silly.
Is there any other questions?
So you should thank Balaji from me.
Yeah.
Balaji is hiding somewhere.
No, he's there, right? I would have just asked him to. Oh, yeah, he's there.
He's behind the scenes.
Definitely, he's always.
Practical purposes. Also, Professor, what happens is the internet eats up so much of bandwidth. So somebody has to be behind the scene in order to make the show run.
Right, you did it. Was there a disruption any time?
No.
It was doing very well.
Yeah. Okay. And I took my regular 75. Did I take my 75 minutes?
From the way people are watching,
No, main talk was 75 minutes.
Nobody would have minded.
Okay. Fine. With only 5:43, we started at 4, maybe 4:10.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's not bad.
There is a question again from Sri Divya, and she's asking, like, sir, you said that there is always questioning whenever we think of doing PhD from relatives. How do we overcome this?
Okay, let me first read what Corinne is writing for you, Rukmini. You may not have read it yet.
Oh yeah,
in the chat. She says, hi from Bordeaux, France.
Yeah.
Great words of wisdom by Yakhmi. Happy to have seen a few images from France too. Oh, I was attacking the French people. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Rukmini, for this nice. And she says, yes, she's already responding.
Yeah. Thank you very much, madam. I think she's online. Yeah. Thank you so much.
She's online.
We would like to see you also.
Yeah. No, she's not seen. I don't know whether she's seen.
Yeah. Okay.
543 she typed, is 544. Okay. Okay. So maybe we can close. You want to close now?
Yes. Yeah, ma'am, welcome.
But you still have 75 participants sitting, or they have?
Yeah, here, but through YouTube it is 400, sir, around 400.
Oh God.
Dr. Tejos is here. Hello.
Who?
Oh, you didn't see her?
Who? Con?
Tejos. So, Corinne Tejos.
Ah, Corinne. Where is Corinne?
Yeah.
Corinne, come on.
Yeah.
No, I had
Very
to.
happy to see you here, ma'am.
Yeah, I got her.
I'm there. Hi.
Yes.
Comment allez-vous?
Bien, merci. Adieu.
Très bien.
That's still no. French still no. Okay. Good.
Adieu, fire, it's fine.
Sometimes I make mess. Thank you, Corinne, for coming out.
Thank you too. Hi,
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
If there are no questions, then we close.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And thank you very much, sir. We are actually very fascinated to hear your lecture today, and we will try to adopt all the good practices you have shared with us today and take the research to the next level for the benefit of the society. Thank you very much. Hope to meet you soon in Pondicherry.
Thank you. Sure.
Thank you very much.
Take
And
care.
thank you, Professor Savanth, Professor Dejos, and Professor Jadhav, and all others who have joined us.
I saw Jadhav sitting, of course.
Yes. Thank you so much.
And Dr. S.K. Gupta, my colleague from BRC, he was there.
Yes, Professor Gupta. Thank you so
He was
much. All of you
earlier
who have joined us today.
Yeah. Thank you. Take care. Be happy. Be safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And happy Diwali to all of you.
Yes.
Happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali.